welcome everybody to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 383.
You've only come to see a villa. You've only come to see a villa.
From the resident Villa fan. There we go. How about it? My name's Matthew Turner alongside Ashley Soden. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. A bit tired from a full week of work, but at the same time, excited because we get to see one of my favourite QBs of all time. I've only been watching NFL for about 10, 15 years now, so I've got a slim list. Of course, I'm talking about Philip Rivers coming out of retirement to pay for his grandkids' college education. But yeah, also some people in our Discord will know as well. It's coming to a certain time of the year where I get even more worried about players being younger than me.
Oh yeah, because it's going to be your birthday come midnight. What fun it will be. And this game will traverse midnight. So there we go. Yes, we are going to be previewing the visit for Detroit to LA to face the Rams. But first, the normal bits and pieces. Please do join our Discord channel. Link is in the live chat right now or in the audio pod description. Would be great to see you there. Otherwise, College Football Podcast. It will be, it's Saturday at the time of recording, so the College Championships have either happened or are... No, that was last week, wasn't it? Am I going mad?
Yep, conference championships were last week.
Yep.
This week is the start of bowl week, and
yes.
I know Ant's been watching it, and I've kind of been keeping my eye on it as I've come home from work. The Celebration Bowl, the HBCU sort of big bowl, cracking game. If you haven't checked in on it, absolute barnstormer.
Yeah, so the College Football Podcast episode to recap all of the bowl games will be in the middle of next week. You are listening from the winner of the College Football Pick Watch. I know nothing about college football, just saying. Please do like this episode. Sub to the podcast. You guys know what it means to us, small content creators. Anything you guys can do in that regard is much appreciated. Here's the news before we talk about the Rams game, and there's quite a lot of roster moves since we last spoke with you. Signed to the main roster is the return of the cornerback Arthur Millette. He had a bit of a rough outing when he was released from the roster about 3 weeks ago, but he returns after obviously some other injuries that we've suffered. He knows the system. Seems to make some sense. And the safety Jalen Mills also comes on, which is a much needed pickup considering the injuries at safety, because of course Brian Branch will not be playing in this game. Neither will Kirby Joseph, who it looks like will be going on injured reserve. Dan Campbell intimated that seemed the most likely course of action after he had a setback in his return from his knee injury. Also signed to the practice squad, safety DeMonte Casey, who I wanted years ago, as Ash pointed out on the Discord channel. I was a little bit early on that one. And signed to the practice squad, the return of the defensive lineman Pat O'Connor. Of course, their mainstay for some time as a starter on this team, as that sort of tweener, edge, inside guy. Returning to the practice squad provides a really kind of high-end guy in that reserve 16 for us to kind of promote as and when required. Designated for return from injury reserve this week, the guard Christian Mahogany. He is not going to be a go for this game. He has been ruled out. I think potentially it was optimistic for us to hope for him for return the same week as being activated. Of course, that's a 21-day clock, so he actually has about 17 days left on that clock, so he may not even be back next week. But it looked like he was trending in a good direction, so I'm hopeful that he will be back next week. Waived from the roster to make room for the guys signed. Two tight ends, Ross Dwelly, who started the last couple of weeks for the Lions in a bit of a surprise, and the tight end Hayden Rucci, who had not been long on the roster. Also away from the practice squad, wide receiver Andrew Armstrong, who was Isaac Tesla's former running mate at Arkansas. Other news, tight end coach Tyler Roll is set to become the offensive coordinator of Iowa State after the end of the Lions season. Now, none of that's been confirmed. I don't believe, it's just highly rumoured, including the bit that he'll stay to the end of the season is again highly rumoured, but it looks like that's going to be the case. Al-Qadim Mohammed was voted the NFC Defensive Player of the Week after his 3-sack outing last week, and it has been confirmed that the Lions are going to play an international game next season, Probably that means that they will lose one of their home games because they've got 9 home games next year. But it did say play, it didn't say host, so we'll see what happens in that regard. It will be at an undisclosed location. The rumours currently have it as New England at Detroit in Munich, but we shall see. If it is in Germany or in London, I suspect quite a lot of us on this side of the pond will be there. Hell, if there's another game in Madrid, maybe there too. Injuries, I mentioned Kirby Joseph already. Ash, a lot to go through there. Tyler Roll, that could be a big loss, although he's got no tight ends currently on the roster, basically, to even train, so kind of funny in some ways. But, we're getting some backup in our secondary where it's much needed, but otherwise, really sad news for Kirby.
Yeah, let's start with the sad news because obviously everyone here knows that Kirby is my favorite player, and we kind of really need him right now. And for him to have this setback, especially obviously on the back of the branch news, and you can keep seeing me checking my phone because every single time I see a tweet notification, I'm like, is this finally going to be them releasing their Saturday transactions? And we'll see the branch going to IR and all that. To basically go all of last year where the defense was so banged up on like the defensive line and linebacker units, and hell, by the end, both Carlton Davis and Terry Nardum out. We lost to Meek. Those two, they're all pro safeties, were the mainstays. They were there pretty much the entire season. So from it swing back around and for basically both of them to be gone for the rest of the season now, because I'm holding out hope, but not exactly betting that Kirby's now going to play another snap this season. It really sucks because Branch is so important to what we do defensively. Like, he's part of the reason we can play a lot of base because he can come down and act as a nickel cornerback to cover 11 personnel, which then allows Anzalone and Jack and Barnes to focus on the run or pass rush or whatever they're doing. It really takes away a significant part of defensive playbook. And Kirby, well, we all saw what he did last season, leading the league in interceptions. When we need a turnover, he usually came up with it. And for him to not be here, especially since, the whole beef between him and Stafford week one of last year with the whole, I didn't see him because he was blended into the back of the end zone debacle. For us not get a repeat of that this week is a bit sad, but it'll hopefully give a chance to some of these bottom of the roster guys. As we say, we've signed the one to KZ, who'll probably resign from the practice squad in a minute in Branch's place, and he'll play some snaps at single high. Gives more of a chance for Daniel Thomas, who's done really well on special teams, but hasn't really done too much for us on defense. Obviously, Jalen Mills, who's a versatile guy. He's played corner, he's played outside corner, nickel, free safety, strong safety. He's played in the box. He'll provide us a bit of what Branch does, but not to the same extent. And then we've still got Strickland, we've still got Hallett on the practice squad as well. Just a chance for them to show out because Branch will probably be entrenched for the. I know he's obviously in his last year of his contract next year, but he's still a priority resign in my opinion because of what he offers to us defensively and how good he is when he's on. Kirby's obviously signed his massive extensions. So they're both here for the long haul. Time for these backups to basically show out and earn their place on next year's roster because we saw it this year. Last year with AQ, he was brought in after all the injuries he had on defensive line, and he earned himself a new contract. And now suddenly he's our edge too, and he's looking pretty damn good at it. As you say, winning NFC Defensive Player of the Week, very deserved. Now they finally actually started using him properly rather than just giving him a sprinkling of snaps, actually playing him as an edge too. See what happens. Kind of funny as you say with the tight ends, though. It really does seem that number one, leaning into Dan Skipper and Jumbo. We very much lead the league in use of Jumbo packages again, despite not using them really for the first quarter of the season. We barely saw Skip, right, because of his injury, but also just didn't use it. The only time I can remember us playing Jumbo really in the first couple of weeks was these 4 snaps against the Bears. We played up as that 6th offensive lineman and it didn't work. So for us to be leaning back into that, I like it, but at the same time, would be nice to give Roll some tight ends to work with, but hopefully one that's kind of gone under the radar. Zylstra, as much as I have much maligned him over the past couple of years, he'll give us a pass catching option that just Dwelly and the others didn't. They're blocking tight ends. Be nice to actually get one that we can do the move stuff with, at least offer us 70% of what Laporta did in the passing game, which we might need against this Rams team, the way they set up to be able to lead for later. Kind of sad for Armstrong, as you say, running mate of Tesla. Would have been nice to have him around, and it's sad for Mahogany as well because he probably would have walked right back into that left guard spot. And considering the defensive tackles we're coming up against this week, would have been nice. But guess we're gonna have to wait till next week against a Rod for him to be back. And then Pat O'Connor seems he's always going to be here now, though it does probably mean Wingo's not long for the roster, because why sign Pat O'Connor to the practice squad when you've got Wingo who's been healthy and active? What does Pat O'Connor offer that Wingo doesn't? It's a bit confusing.
I don't necessarily agree with that assertion. If we really liked Pat O'Connor as much as you think, then he would already be on the main roster in his place. I don't think it's a great sign for him. I think it's the death knell for him. I do think as defensive line coach coming out and saying we love his progress, he's just buried under a strong depth chart. I'm willing to take that at face value. Now, like I said, I don't think it's a good sign that we're looking to get deeper, but it is the practice squad for a reason. The guy's getting paid 250 grand a year. I don't think it's moving the needle. But what will move the needle is if he can actually get through that rotation. So, there we go. As the Lions have placed Brian Branch on IR, which is unfortunate, but we knew it was coming. Activated Shane Zylstra from injured reserve. I was just about to say, Zylstra's not yet on the main roster, but it has just been announced. And then they have elevated tight end Giovanni Ricci and safety Eric Hallett from the practice squad to the active-inactive list. So Shane Zylstra becomes the second tight end on the roster behind Anthony Ferkser, and then Ricci will be number 3. We kind of knew that was coming, but how timely, Ash, for that to come out right now.
Exactly, yeah. It's almost as if we planned it that way. We totally didn't. That's just complete accident. It is interesting, though, as we were just discussing. It's interesting that it's Hallett who's come up instead of Kazee. Perhaps speaks to the kind of game plan we're going to be doing, because, as I just mentioned, Kazee is a free safety. He's a single high. He's the kind of Kirby kind of safety. Hallett, in my opinion, is more of your branch versatile guy. So maybe this suggests we're not going to play as much one high this week, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But just maybe a bit of gamesmanship shows, tips our hand a bit of what our coverage style is going to be this week against Stafford with the 2 high split shelf looks, rather than, the cover 1 band we've ran pretty much every single snap, it seems, or some variants of that. Seems a lot more cover 2, cover 4 this week.
All right, let's get into the game itself. You've been alluding to a lot of it already, so let's hit the ground running. We are on our way to SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California for the Lions at the Rams. The Rams are 10-3. Their expected wins is 10, so they're exactly where they should be. This season so far started off with a win versus Houston and at Tennessee, a loss at Philadelphia, a win against Indianapolis, a loss in overtime versus San Francisco, before wins at Baltimore, at Jacksonville versus the Saints, at San Francisco versus Seattle versus Tampa Bay, a loss at the Carolina Panthers, and then a win at the Arizona Cardinals. The betting for this game has Detroit 11-5. That is plus 220. The LA Rams are favoured. They are 27-10 on. That's minus 270. Detroit, therefore, are 6-point underdogs on the spread. That has actually widened by half a point since I prepared this a couple of days ago. The over-under is 55, which is one of the highest over-unders we have ever seen since we started doing this show. Really points to the fact that both teams have electric offenses and defenses that can be got at a little bit. As part of the injury report, we know that Christian Mahogany was not activated and Thomas Harper is out with a concussion. So is Kirby Joseph with his knee, and Brian Branch is now on IR. In terms of the rest of the report, there are quite a few people questionable for the Lions in this game. And if I actually load the correct week on this thing, that would be useful. Also questionable then for this game: Kayode Arashika at left guard and Taylor Decker at left tackle, Khalif Raymond wide receiver, running back Sione Vaki, tight end Shane Zylstra, but of course he's been put on the main roster, so that's a good sign for him to play. And then Alex Anzalone has no designation after he did not practice on Wednesday because of an illness. For the Rams, Tutu Atwell was activated from injured reserve. We also have questionable for the game Jalen McCulloch, but otherwise no designations for this team. They did have Alaric Jackson taking a rest day on Friday. Devontae Adams had a hamstring injury and did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, was limited on Friday. Looks like he will be a go. And then otherwise, Byron Young had a rest day after a slight little knee issue he's been carrying. Limited on Wednesday and Thursday. He didn't practice Friday, but he's got no designation. Neither does Darius Williams, the cornerback who has a tibia problem, but he was full practice all week. So the Rams, pretty bloody healthy, it has to be said. In terms of the team on injured reserve, on there is a tight end Tyler Higbee, tackle Rob Pavestein, outside linebacker Keir Thomas II, cornerback Roger McCreary, and safety Quentin Lake. Let's go through their depth chart, therefore. Starting on offense, the quarterback Matthew Stafford, of course, formerly of Detroit, backed up by Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett IV. Running backs, Kyron Williams, backed up by Blake Corum, formerly of Michigan, Ronnie Rivers, and Jarquez Hunter. Wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, and Xavier Smith, backed up by Kanata Mumpfield and Jordan Whittington. Tight ends are Colby Parkinson, backed up by Davis Allen, Terrence Ferguson, and Nick Vannett. And then the starting five up front, Alaric Jackson, Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, and Warren McClendon Jr. They are backed up by DJ Humphreys, Justin Dedich, Beau Limmer, and David Quessenberry. On defense, playing a base 3-4, the three down linemen are Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, and Kobe Turner. Outside linebacker edge rushers are Byron Young and Jared Verse. Inside linebackers Nate Landman and Omar Spates. The backups for the down linemen, Deshaun Johnson, Tyler Davis, Laryl Murchison, and Ty Hamilton. Backup at edge rusher, outside linebacker, former Michigan man Josiah Stewart. And then on the inside linebackers, Sean Dolach and Troy Reeder. Starter at nickel is Josh Wallace when they are in nickel, backed up by Darian Hendricks. Outside corner starters Kobe Durant and Emmanuel Forbes Jr. picked up off waivers after being a first-round pick out of Washington and turning seemingly into a good player. Backups are Keller Witherspoon and Darius Williams. And then the safety starters Cameron Kitchens and Cam Curl, backed up by Jalen McCulloch and Chris Smith Jr. Punter is Ethan Evans. Place kicker is the thicker kicker, Harrison Mevis. And the long snapper is former Lion, Jake McQuaid. Having a look through their practice squad just to see if anyone jumps out to me. Actually, hang on, Josh Carty's am I going mad? Carty's the thicker kicker. No,
Harrison Mevis is the thicker kicker. Carty is the one who was at Stanford, same draft class.
So Carty was the kicker, right? And then he lost his spot through injury.
I think he also missed a couple extra point or two, and it was injury, so they brought in Mevis.
And they actually ended up managing to waive him and sign him to the practice squad. Interesting. Okay, cool. Right, when it comes to these teams, this team, Ash, what jumps out to you as the NFC leader, as, you know, all that personnel that they have out there? What does it make you think of?
It's pretty damn good, isn't it? Like, they spot their issues and they fix them. So last year, one of their reasons they were doing bad was because they would stall out in the red zone. So they go and add Devontae Adams, who, while he's not the Devontae Adams we know and hate from when he was in green and gold, he's still pretty damn good, especially in the red zone. So I think out of his touchdowns this season, I think he's got 14. 9 of them come within the 5-yard line. Like, his release package in that short area just gets him open in the chemistry him and Stafford have is elite. Puka is what we all predicted on this podcast, what he would be. He's pretty damn good. And they've adjusted on offense. They don't really have the horses anymore to play 11 personnel. So what they do, they adjust their playbook slightly, and now they play a damn lot of 13 personnel, where instead of having the slot receiver and that, they play with their tight ends on the field, and they've got 4 pretty decent ones. None of them are exactly superstars like Sam Laporta, Kittle, Kelsey, but when they're on the field, they can do what they need to do. So Parkinson, honestly, despite being a tight end, one's probably the worst pass catcher out of the 4 of them. But Davis Allen, who I did like a couple of years ago in the draft, in his draft class picks in the 5th round out of Clemson, he's pretty damn good, can do a bit of everything. Terrence Ferguson is their 2nd round pick, the highest round pick from this year, obviously, after they traded away their first to the Falcons in a genius move. For them, obviously the Falcons are regressing it now, but he's coming on strong as athletic pass catching tight end who's blocking to get in there. And then Fournette is just your standard veteran tight end forward, does what he needs to do. Offensive lines bounce back, like all of them graded in the top 15 for PFF grade for their positions, especially Larry Jackson, who was having a breakout season for them. Warren McClendon, who they picked up fifth round a couple of years ago, him coming in for Rob Havenstein, and he's having a career year as well at the right tackle. So Stafford's not getting pressured much. They brought back Coleman Shelton, who played in Chicago last year for a year to solidify their centre position because Avila, why he's good, was just not making it work there. So now Avila goes back to his strongest position of left guard. Kevin Dotson's continued to be damn good after they've traded for him from Pittsburgh. And then their running back room, they've got two horses who can do it. Kyron Williams is still him, and then Blake Corum's breaking out as they finally give him more and more carries, and he gets back to being like he was when he was wearing Michigan colours. And then they've got two damn good backups about Ronnie Withers and Drew Keston, who can come in and do damage if you need them to. Like offensively, they're all there. Would they like a third receiver? Maybe, but they're making it work. And then on defense, God, when they lost Aaron Donald, we thought they'd be done. Somehow they've managed to get closest they can get to getting him back in the aggregate. We all know how much I liked Kobe Turner a couple of years ago in the third round. He's been pretty damn good. We know how much I loved Braden Fisk coming out of FSU, not in this draft class before, and he's arguably the weaker of the three of their starting defensive tackles, but he's still pretty damn good. Poona Ford's an absolute rock in the middle as a stout nose tackle, while not being a traditional big one because he's under 300 pounds because of how short he is. He's just difficult to move. Byron Young and Jared Verse, damn good edge rushers. We know how much I love Jared Verse. Like, I wish he was wearing our colours, but alas, we're going to have to go up against him. Nate Landman's breaking out as their Mike. He's their sort of green dot guy, while he's not to the level of Jack Campbell. They've recently paid him, and he deserves it. Like, he's absolute rock in the middle for them. Spates is good. Dolak, the tackle machine from Buffalo this year, that they managed to get as a UDFA. He's doing some stuff for them. And they got Troy Reed, a guy who last year was their starter, and now he's their linebacker 4, and he rotates in. They've got that front seven's great. And then the back end, because of the pressure they get with their rushes from the front, they don't have to be amazing. That's why Manuel Forbes, who they got from Washington after they waived him the former first-round pick, he's suddenly become like he was at Mississippi State. Kobe Durant, who they got in the fourth a couple of years ago, he's looking like a good starter. Kilo Witherspoon, who I know you really, really like, he's coming back from injury and they're working him back in. He's looking pretty damn good. And then there's their safeties, Cam Carl, who I really liked from Washington. They bring him in at free safety, and in their looks that they do with the, either cover 3 or cover 4, cover 6, he's fitting into that perfectly. Cam Kinchins, who they got from Miami, absolute mauler in the run game, can absolutely thump, sometimes to his own detriment. And then McCullough, who I know is questionable with his illness, as their safety 3 to bring in, and cover 6 looks as the sort of box safety. He does his job as well. And then Josh Wallace, again, someone that Michigan fans might know because he was there for a year, is looking good at the nickel, though being the weak spot in that secondary. They've somehow managed to rebuild this team from 2021, where they got to the Super Bowl. They've had a bad couple of years, and now suddenly they're back to being like that, and it's scary because, yeah, this is a team that could definitely put a fight up against us. And yeah, we've had their number the past couple of times, but Staff's playing like an MVP. The offensive line's doing pretty damn good. They've got 2 alpha receivers, 2 damn good running backs, a good offensive play caller. Their defensive play caller, well, he kind of got the job a bit through nepotism from being Don Shula's grandson. He's a much a head coaching candidate in this cycle as some of our guys like Shep is, because he's doing an absolute job with these defensive pieces. They're just a juggernaut. They're just a juggernaut. The only big advantage I can see for us against them is special teams, and even then, they get one big kick return against us, suddenly it's all going to fall down.
I watched them play the Cardinals game last week, and I know that the Cardinals aren't a good team this season, which I know Ant hates, and I don't especially like, but I have been on that train all season, and I feel pretty good about that take now. But it's a team that has, the Cardinals this is, lost by 3 in overtime to Jacksonville, who look really good at the moment. Lost by 3 at Tampa Bay the week before. To get blown away 45-17, I do think is a bit of a statement by the Rams. However, There are some statement wins by the Rams, and there is no doubt of that. However, especially since the bye week, this team, and I guess if you are going to lead the conference, you do need a little bit of luck here and there. Their schedule has not been easy, but they have played their games in timely positions. So early on, they played a Texans team that wasn't good, and it's week 1, but they won that game. They then played Tennessee. They lost to Philadelphia before beating the Colts when they were playing really well. So that's a really good win in context, although now it doesn't look quite as good. But the Colts were, rogue graders at that time. Lost to 49ers in overtime, but then went on a 6-game win streak, beating a shit Ravens team, beating a shit at the time Jacksonville Jaguars, who, have picked it up since and now look really good, but they were kind of going between okay and terrible at that point. They beat the Saints, who are awful. They beat San Francisco, who I kind of think are a good team with a soft underbelly, and losing to them early, I think, looks worse than beating them recently, although it was away. They beat the Seahawks, and that's a great win, but you know what? If Darnold's playing shit and you beat them by 2 points, that's not ideal. And then they beat a terrible Tampa Bay team. They lost to the Panthers 2 weeks ago, and then they beat a Cardinals team that's a 3-win team. Looking at all of that, even though they've played the 49ers twice, the Ravens, the Eagles, the Texans, I go through the games one by one, and I do say, as good as they look, they have been very fortunate to play the team that they've played, and while they should have won 10 wins per the Pro Football Reference metric, I look at it and think, I'm not sure that this is the measure of a 10-win team. Having said that, you have a look at how they dismantled Arizona, and my God, they're playing well. None of anything I just said actually matters, because if you just have a look at how they're playing, especially Stafford to Puka, holy shit, this is an unbelievable offense. And Stafford is playing with rhythm that we've maybe not seen before in his career, not even in maybe his Super Bowl year. He's the front runner for MVP, he's big favourite, and there's a big reason why. And it's because they're not just beating teams, apart from the 2-point win against the Seattle Seahawks, and losing recently to the Panthers. But anyway, they're kind of blowing teams away. The fact that the Panthers game only happened because the Panthers got them at them a bit with a pass rush, and Stafford had a boneheaded fumble with 2 minutes to play. Otherwise, they probably would have won that game too.
Yeah, it's certainly very true what you said, but at the same time, they've got to play what's in front of them. And yeah, while it hasn't looked good as a whole, you look at the metrics, so the stuff that kind of takes into account who they've played and all this. Like, I know you've got the DVOA and the EPA and that on there, but you've got people that obviously in our Discord know I get like stat things. That's what I use for my previews. They're just on both sides of the ball. There's so much dark green. Like they're fourth. So on offense, which is actually not the one they give me first for them, which is great. On offense, they are, according to my things, second in EPA per play, fourth in EPA per dropback, second in EPA per rush, which is, not something you really associate with a Stafford-led team, but they're Kyle Williams next lead. First in success rate, third in pass rate over expectation, which is not really like an efficiency thing, but basically means they're passing it more than they should be. Sixth in offensive play rate, second in motion EPA, fourth in under center EPA, or like against the blitz, they've got the 6th highest EPA. Against when they're not blitzed, 6th highest EPA. When they're pressured, somehow they've got the 8th, despite that being Stafford's underbelly. They've got so much going for them on both sides of the ball that, while they've kept it close, it has taken freak circumstances like Stafford having something like 3/4 of his turnovers in the season in one game for them to lose.
Yeah, and lose narrowly. Yeah.
And lose narrowly. Like, this, it's scary. I was listening to 20 Minute in the Huddle, and they had forgot the writer's name, but the one that used to be the beat reporter for the Rams now is like a national writer for The Athletic. And she made a very good point that this team right now, this Rams team, is very reminiscent of that December to Super Bowl 2021 team, where they had all these circumstances, had to redo their entire run game because they basically lost all their backs in November and all this. And they somehow gritted it through. That's what they've done here, but in a better way. They've found that, as I was mentioned earlier, they found their weaknesses last year. Okay, we're not doing so great in the red zone. What do we go and do? We get one of the best release package receivers in the league that will just become elite within the red zone because there's no way a cornerback can keep up with them in that short amount of distance. They've beefed up their secondary a bit by getting a true safety because that was one of their big issues last year. They be some explosive plays. They fixed that. They've brought in some young corners who have got speed to keep up with some of the receivers in their division. And so they've just added pieces where they had to, and they've done it without a first round pick. And now that's the scary thing is if they're this good this year, if they use that first round pick for something that they need for next year, let's say, I don't know, they go and get an elite slot receiver like Malachi Lemon from USC. They get their Amon Ra, or they go and get just a top tier cornerback to be their cornerback one. Again, putting the cart before the horse, maybe. Next year, I know obviously I'm a Lions fan. I will always try and put us the thing. The Rams might be my Super Bowl favorites for next year, just based on how they look right now and how they could get a lot better next year.
I think if I was looking at their team, looking at what I would want them to invest in, I think my first port of call would probably be a corner. Mm-hmm. I know the slot receiver kind of makes sense, but with Tutu Atwell coming back, I think they really like him, and I think he comes back at a kind of reasonable price every year because he's never going to get massively paid. But they've got Kobe Durant, who I think is really good, but has a bit of a ceiling, and Emmanuel Forbes, we'll see. But I think he's always going to be an up and down player in his career, given his size. I do think there could be a risk of him going up against some other people. If they can get that really high pick from Atlanta, thank you. Who there could be a top 5 pick when it's all said and done. Actually, no, that's not true because they won on Thursday, didn't they? So maybe not. But it's probably like 8th or 9th at the moment.
They're currently 10th.
I think starting corner could be like exactly the right position at that sort of draft position. So we'll see. Anyway, let's go through a few more stats, shall we? This is PFF's number 1 overall team. First on offense, first on defense. Special teams is 27th. DVOA has some second. EPA has some second overall. 5th on offense. 3rd on defense. Matthew Stafford, 288 of 432, that's 66.7%. 3,354 yards, 35 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, passer rating 113.1, QBR 68.8, PFF grade of 93.6. He leads the NFL in touchdowns and passer rating this season. Running back is Kyron Williams, 196 of 952, 4.9 yards per carry and 8 touchdowns, 26 to 35 through the air for 197, which is 7.6 yards per catch and a PFF grade of 81. Puka Nacua is 93 of 118 for 1186, 12.8 yards per catch and 6 touchdowns, a PFF grade of 94.6. He leads the NFL in receptions this year, which is insane, given that he has not played one game as well. The other receiver, of course, Devontae Adams, he's got a PFF grade of 84. He leads the NFL in receiving touchdowns with 14. Leading tight end is Colby Parkinson, 26 of 34 for 223. 8.6 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns, PFF grade of 77.5. Other good grades, the guard Kevin Dotson, 85. Alaric Jackson, tackle, 85. Steve Avila, guard, 79. Coleman Shelton, center, 76. Notice that was all of the offensive line in there. No bad grades on their offense. This team is 17th on 3rd down, 6th on 4th down, and 3rd in the red zone. A little interesting schematic wrinkle with this side. They were historically the highest rate of 11 personnel in the NFL many years running, up with other people who've come out of this system like San Francisco, like the Miami Dolphins. This year, they have added a wrinkle to that. They have started becoming the highest rate of 13 personnel in the NFL. They run 13 personnel 21% of the time. That is double the amount that they run 12 personnel. So they run 11 personnel 87% of the time, and 13 personnel 21% of the time. 12 personnel was only 10% of the time. So it's weird, but they love one tight end on the field, and they love 3 tight ends on the field, but they don't do 2. What that does mean is that they force you to make decisions on defense, and they put you in some really tough spots. What's remarkable about what they do in 13 personnel is it increases their pass efficiency compared to 11 personnel significantly, but also their EPA per rush as well. 13 personnel is by far their best offensive formation, even when it takes wide receivers off the field. So in that personnel, 3 tight ends, a running back, only 1 wide receiver, and they are brilliant at it because of the variety of that rushing attack, how well Kyron Williams has done, the fact that he's remained healthy, the fact that Blake Corum has been a fantastic change-up running back. Stafford's obviously been slinging it. The fact they can run or pass out of that formation is staggering in terms of the effects that it has had on this team. And also, when you want to throw, Stafford's obviously going to be pretty well protected out of that too. So they've been very inventive with it. They've found this from previous years where historically Sean McVay has not been willing to kind of try anything else other than 11 personnel, and it's been a really positive change for them, unfortunately. Moving on to the defense, Braden Fisk is the leading defensive lineman statistically. 1 pass defended and a fumble recovery, 2 sacks, 25 tackles, 3 TFLs, 6 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 65.5. Leading edge rusher is outside linebacker Byron Young. 1 forced fumble, 11 sacks so far this season, 65 tackles, 10 TFLs, 22 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 84. Leading linebacker is Nate Landman. 1 interception, 6 passes defense, 4 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 1.5 sacks, 108 tackles, 5 TFLs, 3 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 77.6. Leading corner Kobe Durant, 3 interceptions and a touchdown, 7 passes defended, 32 tackles, a TFL and a PFF grade of 70.4. And the leading safety is Quentin Lake, an interception and 10 passes defensed, 1 forced fumble and a fumble recovery, a sack, 61 tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 75. Other good grades in there. Defensive tackle Poona Ford, the nose tackle, unbelievable pickup out of Seattle, I believe, before, so in-division move for him. It's worked out really, really well. Outside linebacker and former Florida State man Jared Verse, 82.3. Safety Cam Kitchens, 79.1. There are no bad grades on their defense either. On 3rd down, this defense is 8th in the NFL, 4th down, 13th. Red zone is 2nd. That is why they have been doing such good work. They may bend a little bit. This team doesn't break at all. Just some stats for you in terms of their sort of coverages and how they do things. Their blitz rate is 19%. That's 30th in the NFL. So they get all this pressure, they get all their sacks, barely blitzing compared to the rest of the teams in the league. Their light box rate is 59.3%. That's 2nd in the NFL. They really don't commit a huge amount of resources in the box. Is shown by their heavy box rate of 16.2%, which is 30th in the NFL. They do live a bit in their sub package. 76% is 9th in the NFL. They play man very little, only 15% of the time. That's 28th in the NFL. But with all of that and only rushing 4 most of the time, or even 3, their pressure rate is 39%. That's 10th in the NFL. However, with their light box rate comes a little bit of a wrinkle where the Lions could get some success. This team, in yards before contact per rush on defense, is 1.1 yards. That's 23rd in the NFL. And their run stuff rate is 13.9%. That is 31st in the NFL. So they do not put you behind the 8 ball in the run game. What do we like to do? So Ash, a lot of stats I've just thrown at you there. I do think the most interesting thing from my perspective is just this 13 personnel thing, because we've been used to this Rams team being an 11 personnel team. That is their identity. And they've gone away from it in a fairly substantial way. It's paying off massively.
Yeah, it appears they have, but then you break down into those 13 personnel plays and you actually realise It's the same bloody plays they run in 11 personnel. They just switch out to the receivers for tight ends because they trust their tight ends so much that they'll get the mismatches where either teams will see the look and the formation, think this is 11 person, well, obviously it's 11 personnel play, and so play nickel, in which case you've probably got a tight end lined up against a slot corner, massive size advantage, or a safety. They've basically got a mismatch that way, or they see the heavy tight end usage and they go to sort of their deeper, their sort of base looks, or they sub in like sort of bigger things, and they still have a running back who can get a free. They've got a wide receiver, Shuji Puka, but I know Devontae does play some of those snaps in the red zone, who can get free against lighter coverages, and then they still trust their tight ends to go up against the linebacker and just be slightly quicker and just get that little bit of separation because Stafford, if he sees even the smallest window, as we damn well know, will fit it into there. That's all they need. So the way they have adapted and decided on this wrinkle, we already know looking at other teams in the past, us, for instance, but also what Baltimore have been doing for a good while and what Kansas City have been moving to past couple of years with 12 personnel. They've gone that one step further, gone 13, but just have them in the same sort of plays that they have in 11. And it just gives McVay so many more buttons to press because, he can now run effectively out of 11 personnel plays. You can pass out of 13 personnel plays because they're basically the same. It's just you subbing different players. It makes it so much easier for Stafford to call the plays as well because suddenly he's not having to call a whole new set of plays when two Titans on the field. He calls the same play and Allen knows that, in this play I'm doing this, and then can call the exact same play with Puka, Devontae Adams, and Mumfield on the field, and they know what they're doing with it as well. It just makes it so much easier for them, especially if they have to go into tempo situations. And it's the same on the other side of the ball. As you mentioned, they live in sub packages, 22% base package usage, not so much. 44%, about 45% nickel. That's actually not relatively high in the league. That's the fifth lowest in the league of nickel usage. We're obviously first in that because they lead the league by a good amount of dime usage. They do live in their sort of free corners, free safety looks a lot, cover six looks, where they bring on McCullough as a sort of box safety, and it allows them to defend nickel looks and 12 personnel looks a lot more effectively. So they use dime 31.2% of the time, which is first. Number two is the other LA team, the Chargers, with 19.2. That's a massive disparity. And yet it works for them. The sort of wrinkles they've introduced on both sides of the ball, one of the reasons they've probably had their efficiency because teams are struggling to catch up. They might catch up next season and then they'll have a new wrinkle. And that's perhaps one of the things that sets apart McVay from the other guys in the tree that you mentioned earlier, the Shanahan tree, that pretty much half the offenses these days comes from. We've got some aspects of it. Obviously, you mentioned San Francisco, Washington, Miami, Seattle to some extent. Basically, every team that's ever touched it will run some put. He's one step ahead of them, which is something that we see with Green Bay. They've tried to do it with their two tight end looks. That's what sets apart McVay from Matt LaFleur, for instance. McVay acts like the smartest man in the room, and he is, and he shows up with some of this stuff. Somebody of ones, LaFleur, for instance, think they are. Sometimes they hit the right buttons, but a lot of the time, the history shows they don't. McVay's done that on offense, and then he's knocked this defensive coordinator higher at the park. Obviously, Raheem Morris went to go and be the Atlanta Falcons head coach again, and that's not worked. So he'll probably come back and Sheila will get hired somewhere. He's managed to find that defensive guy who can always get the best out of his place and just complement these offense enough where, if Stafford has a rough day, they can still keep themselves in games. And if they do lose, it's very narrowly because their offense can put up points. Their defense can clamp down. Like that red zone efficiency for their defense is part of the reason why you look at the stats for us and LA, and they're pretty much identical except for points given up and that red zone efficiency. Because while we give up the same amount of yards, when they get teams into the red zone on defense, they camp down, they force freeze instead of touchdowns, and that just helps with their points per game. They're just damn good.
Many thanks to Dan Pass for subscribing at Tier 1 on Twitch for his 45th month. Says, Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are doing well. Going to the pub tomorrow to see the game with my best mates. So looking forward to a good game and day. All the best and go Lions. And that actually reminds me that I didn't say it at the top of the show. If you are in the UK, we are again congregating at the Hippodrome Casino in London for the Rams game. If you want to meet myself and Ash, we've got, I think, a couple of others coming with us. Won't be a huge crowd, but it should be a good time. Fingers crossed we get the win. Be great to see any of you there. If you fancy it, you can contact us on our socials. You can contact us through Discord. Link, as I've said before, is in the live chat or in the podcast description. If you fancy it, just give us a shout. We'd love to meet you. I talked briefly about the Arizona Cardinals game. What was very obvious to me about their offense is just how much Stafford's feeling himself right now. Pretty much every throw is a sort of, I don't know, when it's a 5-step drop, he's ripping it after 5 steps. If it's a 2-step drop, he's ripping it after 2 steps. There's no hesitation in his play. He's not double clutching. The execution of the wide receivers to give him that separation so he can throw on time's fantastic. He's in rhythm game to game, and it doesn't seem like there's anything that's going to massively throw him off it. But Puka's killing people out there. Like, Devontae leads the league in touchdowns, and, like you said, a lot of them are short, but his release package is fantastic. He's doing bits through the 20s as well. But Puka, whether it is seam routes, posts, skinny posts, 10 and out, wheels, cover 2 beaters, hooks, whatever it is, tight coverage, we know that doesn't matter to Stafford, and he just chucks in there. There was one which was just a little seam route that he kind of cut slightly inside, so it was almost like a post, and it was only a 15-yard catch or so, but just got about a yard of separation in between the linebackers and safeties and caught it one-handed inside the 5. And it's like, wow, this is operating on some awesome level. But intermixed with that was just them running stretch play after stretch play off left and right tackle and getting massive success doing that. Obviously, we know a lot of the run scheme from any of the Shanahan tree is a lot of outside zone. But they get out there so quickly, get the edge, and they're making massive success on doing that. So that also, because it's stretch, massively helps with play action as the offensive line kind of moves with that stretch play, and you can drop back, and Stafford's kind of been on the move, which obviously we know he's a very good passer on the move anyway. So in all facets, like the run's really working. He can just do a straight drop back and Puka's going to win. But then he's getting the easy buttons as well with the play action stuff. Offensively, what can we do to get them out of this rhythm? Because if they play like they did against the Rams, against the Cardinals, we ain't got no shot.
Well, one thing we can do is actually get push up front, because one of the reasons I do agree with the outside zone stuff. One of the reasons the Rams were so effective on the ground is because when they were doing their duo looks, which is their second favorite run concept, I watched some of the highlights. And I was like, why the fuck is the double team on the third and like on the safety? The Rams were just getting out so quick, and the Cardinals were just not getting there with their defense having the linebackers. That they were getting the single blocks, and then yet it was on the safeties that were getting the duo block, and suddenly Corum's gone or Williams is gone. Just, we need to not let that happen. We need to shut down the run, and just don't let the Rams offense bully us, because especially with the tendency we have to play man, if we give Stafford enough time, he's going to tear us apart. Like, there's a stat that of his touchdowns this season, most of them come against man, and he's only thrown 1 interception against man this season. If we don't get to Stafford quickly, if we don't get the quick pressures that we did last week on Dak, we don't get that push and just bottled up their run game enough that it's still there, they'll still do it because they've got to keep us honest. But we bottle it up enough that we kind of force them to be one-dimensional, and we can't just let AQ just rush at him off of Eric Jackson or McClendon and just let him pin back his ears and get to Stafford and make his life hell. Staff could just sit, if he's just able to sit back there and dice us up like we've seen Marcus Mariota do to an extent, JJ McCarthy do to an extent. someone who, if you look at the NFL power rank, QB power rankers they put out every week, he's below Philip Rivers, and Philip Rivers has just come out of retirement and he's like 44, and he's now just reset his Hall of Fame like clock and all that. Because we didn't get those quick pressures, and again, I'm going off the Dallas game here, so it might fall back down to earth. If we don't get those quick pressures we did last week, we might see another one of his performances, and the difference between JJ McCarthy and Stafford is Stafford will not give us any chances. McCarthy will line it up and gave some easy overthrows and that. Stafford will just deliver. He's got 2 elite receivers, for getting him back now. Great gamesmanship from them because we probably were the best team to match up against their 13 personnel looks with our tendency to play base. Having him there, so now we do have to worry about playing nickel a bit more and covering him, which is probably part of the reason we signed Mallet. But it's just, we've got to get push on that offensive line. We can't let them bully us because otherwise the whole defensive game plan will fall apart.
I think the answer is actually to play a lot of base in all circumstances. I don't want to see much nickel at all. I know you just said maybe some, well, let's play a bit more nickel. I think about how to win this game, and I think you're right on defense. We need to shut down the run. I want to see heavy boxes. I want to see us run blitzing a ton. I want us to see us aggressively coming downhill, especially on the edges, and say, you are not running that way. Because if we can shut down their run game, if we can get in as Wolves equalise. Sorry, Arsenal Wolves, just vested interest. If we can shut down the run game to an extent, and we are good at that, and if that means that the play-action passing is stunted somewhat, it forces it to be a drop-back game for Stafford. That's still advantage Rams, but I don't think we can shut down the game against the pass. I think that's on a kind of a bit of hiding to nothing. Force that on him. We know that when we do that, if you can then start teeing off with some of the pressure stuff, that can fluster him a little bit. That if he puts the ball in the air, that's inherently taking a risk, and then you just hope that luck kind of goes your way. Or that, DJ Reed comes to play, who I think probably is going to be on Puka. We'll see. I don't know. Was he going to be on Devontae? I don't like that. I really, really hate that matchup. I'd rather he was on Puka. But anyway, one way or the other, I don't think we can shut down the pass game, but what we can do is say there is an element of risk in him doing that, and we need that element of risk in order for that offense to not be as efficient as it can be. If they can run the ball, we're done. I do not see a route to victory in this game. So shut down the run, put our secondary on an island against these guys, and just say, if you win that way, you win that way.
Yeah. So I made that face. The reason I'm sticking DJ Reed on Devontae is because I think he's got the ability to stick with the release package and just stick with him. And then this is going to be controversial. I know people might hate me in the comments. I'm then sticking Rocky Sin on Puka Nacua. I'm putting Amik on the bench.
I don't hate it. Or I'd put Amik in the nickel.
Yeah, Amik comes in the nickel. Again, it's me bigging himself up a bit because you know how much I love Rocky Sin and he's fucking showing out this season. Rocky Sin's got the physicality and the speed to keep up with Nacua. And especially in the red, like sort of those contested targets, which is the one area that Adams has fallen off recently. You look at his contested catch rate this season compared to the rest of his career. That's what he's fallen off. Nacua is elite. I think he's leading the league in contested catch success rate. And that's with playing a lot. But I think he's had a few more contested catch rate than contested targets than the guys underneath him. Yasin is great at those contested catch situations. And with what's happened with Amika recently, I think he does need that sort of gentle benching that everyone suggested we give to Terrian when Amik was showing out. Because you look at the stats and what's happened to Amik the past couple of weeks, it has been rough. And if we do play Amik, Nacua is the kind of receiver he likes to play with. For some reason, he plays really damn well against physical receivers, so it might work. But if I was Shep, if I was the Shea Taverns end, yeah, it's DJ Reed. You just stick with Devontae Adams, and then whoever's playing you on the outside corner, you're playing Nacua. But at the same time, as you say, I don't care if it is like 2 years ago where we give up 150 yards in Nacua, so long as we get that dub, I do not give one shit.
as Arsenal retake the lead in the 94th. Yeah, sucks. Oh, well. Okay. What about on the defensive side of the ball for the Lions? We, have danced around this little prospect a bit. The way that we look at this game, I think, is, exactly what the Panthers did to them. Potentially. I don't know. But it's going to be tough one way or the other. Sorry, we talked about that side of the ball already. Offensively, what can we do against the Rams' defense to keep them on the bench as long as possible?
Let's run the ball, run the damn ball, and that's why I'm so happy Monty looked back to his old self last week, because need I remind people what that overtime drive against the Rams was last year? Monty, 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 Monty. And the way they like to play their defense, as I mentioned at the sort of top, they love to play their nickel and dime looks. That means they don't have Poona Ford on the field. He only plays about 30% of their snaps. As soon as we see that, they're set up to pass rush. As much as I love Braden Fisk, he's undersized. As much as I love Kobe Turner, he's undersized for a defensive tackle. It definitely works for them getting penetration, but if we use that against them, their linebackers are probably their weak spot on their defense. We can attack them. We can get some big runs. Just Gibbs, Monty, get them going, and then if we do have to pass, use Zylstra. Use Zylstra and use Tesla, because Amon Ra will probably have his, but they will focus on him. They will focus on him, especially in these nickel and dime looks. They'll have one of them. I think it will usually be, obviously they'll have using their nickel corner, but if he's not on the field, it'll probably be McCullough follows him if he's still there. Use that against them. They'll focus on Amon Ra. Use the dagger concepts that we love that we usually target Amon Ra on the intermediate dig. Use them, have JMO still run the go, and then target him. Have Tesla act as an inline tight end. Use Zylstra, because just attack those linebackers in both the pass and run game, because keep Stafford off the field. Don't give him as many, give him less chances as you can. Take good protection, good care of the football, protect it. Don't give him any free turnovers, and just attack those linebackers, because if we let that damn good pass rush tee back there, is just have the 4-man rush, the 3-man rushes that beat the Cardinals, that beaten teams before, let that pressure get to us. It's going to be a long ass day, because while their corners are not that good, anyone can pick off stuff in zone if you're forcing out quickly, especially against us.
Yeah, I agree. If you look again at the Panthers game as a guide, they passed the ball 20 times. They ran the ball 40 times. 2-1 split in favour of the run. And, yeah, they got Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. That is a big strength of their offense. We got Gibbs and Monty. Come on. It's set up for us to do this in this game. We have been made to win games like this in the way that we have been built. We are built to win NFC North style games, and we are built to win this sort of game, whether we do it or not, against a team which I think is probably better than us right now. And I don't think that's a weird take, considering I think this is maybe the number 1 team in the NFL.
Yep.
This is the game we were built to win, because we can ground and pound it, running the ball, but on defense, stop the run. Exactly what we're asking for in this game is exactly what Dan Campbell was set out to do as the identity of this team. Execution's obviously going to be an issue. Running the ball's going to be tough. I mean, this offensive line has struggled at times for the Lions, especially on the interior. Mahogany hasn't come back. So, what does that mean? Does that mean more Miles Frazier at left guard? Does it mean Awashika does play, because he didn't last week? Does it mean that Arashika comes in and Frazier gets the odd series here or there with a bit of guard rotation? I think that's actually the most likely thing, given that Dan Campbell said he doesn't know whether Frazier's going to start, but he wants to see him get some more reps. It's alluding to the guard rotation that we saw last week. We have seen the offensive line play a bit better the last week or two, but, can you run off left tackle? It's been a struggle for us running anything left to centre. Given that, and the Rams know that, can he run off right tackle? Saul's the number 1 graded PFF player this year of any position in the NFL. But if I'm LA, I know this is the game plan. And I know how I lost against the Panthers, and I know how the Lions are set up. Ash, I think that we could see tendency breakers from the Rams. I don't think Sean McVay is a proud man over just wanting to get wins in this league. If I'm McVay, I think we see a shift from him from lighter boxes into playing the run a bit more. Because I think they know that's how they're going to win. And they're going to have a look at Amon-Ra, who's a bit banged up, and potentially no Khalif Raymond, and no tight ends, and JMO getting sporadic usage. And I think, you know what? Suffocate this team by stopping the run and forcing Jared Goff to be under a bit of pressure. And that's how we win this game. So I'm going to be interested to see whether the Rams play as we've been talking about and they have done all season, or whether in a one-on-one game, tactically they go, we're going to make a shift. Because I do think that means the dynamic of this game has completely changed. Because now JMO, as you've been talking about, becomes a massive part of what's going on. And if they do set out for the run a little bit more, that brings Amon-Ra into things. So can we bait them into that? You know, are they going to be who they are, in which case maybe Amon-Ra or JMO are less of a factor because they do play in nickel and drop people and play dime a huge amount? Or can we kind of say to them, no, come downhill, and then we have a little bit of an opportunity over the top? I think the tactical question in this game of how much do they change from who they are to counter who we are, because in some ways, this is a good matchup for us, low-key, compared to like the personnel-wise and who actually they have as their individual players is just a bit scary. But in terms of what we want to do and what they want to do, it feels like Advantage Alliance schematically.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, do we have the horses and how much do they change? It's a fascinating question.
And the interesting thing is if they do, it's that 4D chest to start and they start doing the run blitzes and that. With how they are already, without making these tactical changes, they are 9. Again, it's one of my favorite stats to bring up. Obviously, we're really damn good at play action. They face it the least amount in the league. They've only faced it on 17% of dropbacks faced. And then 19th in the league in EPA per play given up on that. They give up 0.14 EPA per play on drop play action passes. If they start run blitzing and they do bring those linebackers up and we can sneak a JMO, Zane Silstra on, oh God, I can see it now. Zane Silstra doing the Brock Wright play, score a touchdown. There's my hot take early in the show. But yeah, it plays into us doing the play action stuff, doing the dreaded screens that we seemingly hate, but the sort of quick dump offs in the flat and the flare routes to Gibbs, to Monty, stuff like that. If we do have Khalif back, using him on those kind of stuff, it starts bringing that chess match, and that's part of the reason I love this game. Is why I've had to explain it to people at work. Like, why do you like American football? This exact conversation is why, because it is, oh, well, if you do this, I'm going to do this, which means then you're going to do that. And it's that chess match. And it's honestly, even if we give, it is just a battle, we give a load of points each way. The battle of Dan Campbell against Schuler and McVay versus Shep, it could really make some careers, because if Shep manages to hold up against this McVay offense, I'm just going to go back on that, really proves his credentials as a DC. If Campbell can put points up against this Rams defense, it really shows that he is a good play caller, because they've stopped some good offenses. And it is that just who can outthink the other, who's got the biggest balls as a coach. I'm not going to say I want us to go for every fourth down, but it's like that first game we played against them in SoFi, where we just made the trade and they're on their way to the Super Bowl. And it was the game that really showed the Dan gambling for it, the fake punts and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if Dan pulls some of that out of his arse again and we start doing some of that, just because it is like 2021 again, in a way where we're at a slight disadvantage here in terms of we're really up against it. They need that. They could get it if they win this weekend, so they've clinched the playoffs. Well, if we lose, it does make it very. We don't instantly go out the playoffs. It makes it very hard. Well, our back's up against the wall. I would not be surprised if Dan starts pulling out the bag of tricks again, just to get us that slight advantage where we need it, because we definitely do on offense against this defense. Because yeah, they start teeing offers against us. If Verse starts going up, getting some run against Decker, who obviously has had veteran rest again this week, he hasn't really practiced. If he's not 100%, Verse has his day with him. God help us.
Yeah, and Versus an absolute animal. That's the sort of person that Decker can sometimes have trouble against, so I do fear that a little bit. All right, we've danced around this long enough. Score prediction, my guy.
41-38 to the Rams. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Everyone knows I hate predicts against us. It's just, yeah, the way the Rams are right now, just an absolute juggernaut.
I'm going to go 34-24 Rams. Just feels like a step too far. The implications for this game, if the Lions do win it, their playoff percentage jumps from around 50% now up to about 75% or so, maybe even slightly higher than that. So the implications for this game positively are pretty high. In terms of the low side, we don't actually lose a huge amount of percentage points losing this game, basically because it's built into the model that we're expected to lose this game. I think the percentage chance of us going through into the playoffs goes down to about 40-odd%.
35 to 40%.
35 to
some of the ones I've
40%.
seen.
Yeah, so we lose about 15 percentage points versus gaining about 28 percentage points. So it's expected we lose. That's represented by the spread, which means that the upside of winning this game is it's one you're not expected to get, where you needed to go 4-1 down the stretch. If this can be one of the ones rather than the one in the loss column, you don't have to run the table. Huge boon. Given that it's expected you lose, it does, put down the gauntlet to win every other remaining game. But this is a huge opportunity for us. Like, at this point, it's not expected we get there, or it's about a 50-50 shot, and you're not expected to win this game. In some ways, pressure off. In some ways, given what we did in the first couple of seasons under this regime, we are legitimately the underdogs.
Yeah.
This is where we sometimes play our best football. Can we go out there like an underdog and scrap our way to a win? I have faith, and if there ever was going to be a game where we might throw some trickery in, I somewhat expect it. Please don't run a fake punt where you shouldn't, because they'll see that coming a mile away. But do try and keep them off guard with hook and ladders or bits and pieces like that. I think that this is the game to pull out the stops.
Yeah. See, you're saying not run a fake punt. In my mind, I am flashing back to that Rams game, Courier's go reference to, and a certain person threw a pass.
Yep.
And
Fox.
now, Fox. And of course, who is one of our starting gunners?
Tesla?
Give me.
Was the person Fox threw to God-winning Rebuke just out of interest? I thought it...
Yes, it was.
God.
Yes, it was.
I don't know how I've remembered that.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, but exactly. That's the one I want, but not the one we did earlier this season where it's a direct snap. Fuck that right off. As much as I love Parcel protectors, nope, go away with that. We have not had a Fox fake pass, fake pump pass in 2 years. I think the last one he threw was to JRM 2 years ago. Bring that back. Because that, again, it'll catch teams off guard. We haven't done it for a couple of years. Like, oh, yeah, they're just going to do this. And suddenly Fox passes it on a fourth and 5 to Tesla, who's on like just a 6-yard hook. And he gets the first down. Something like that.
Okay, so if you're going to run fake punts, you need trickery. So what I'm thinking is if you do give it to the personal protector, I want to see Fox running outside for a pitch.
Oh!
So use the tendencies against them. They'll crash down on the person getting the ball. Throw it away from him.
Speed up. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, because then you're using what you've put on tape previously in the season, using that against people. So I do think in some ways, putting on tape a basic fake allows you to set up something a bit more complicated, but,
Yeah, have it. Oh, because he's... I think Ferguson I'll have to double check it. I think he played some of the punt return stuff as well. Have him and Tesla as your two on that side. Oh, you've got me side out. I'm imagining it in my head. I love it.
Yeah, no, it occurred to me, and I was like, you know what? We've run a really awful fake punt this season where we just ran it straight into the line and it went for a loss, and but they'll have seen that. So use it against them. But that's the little kind of trickeration I'm talking about. If you're going to do it, don't do a basic one. Unless you have an obvious schematic advantage with how they've lined up, in which case you take advantage of that shit. But barring that, you need a possession. Be clever. This is the game to do it, because we need this one. If we can get this one somehow, we're in such a good position going down the stretch.
Yeah. Hell, you're saying about using failed plays from early this season against them. The Jared Goff pass. Giants used it against us. and it worked. Obviously, Winston got a touchdown. Next week against on Thanksgiving, again, I didn't see it, but supposedly we ran it and it didn't work. And it was with Monty in the Wildcat. Do it again. Get Goff going out the wheel. They're going to say, oh, look, it's this again. And suddenly Monty goes the other way. Just stuff like that, as you say, use stuff that, we've got on tape because that's part of the reason. Hell, the Malik, again, we haven't called him up, but we've got Khalif. Put Khalif in the Wildcat like we did Malik Cunningham. Run that play, but just have Khalif run for the first down, like I theorized when we did it. Stuff like that, where, this is the week now. If we're going to start doing these things where we've done the Ben, a whole thing we used to critique Ben Johnson for, why we ran this play and it's to set stuff up for later. This is the week you start going, okay, this is why we've done this. We've set this up for X weeks now. Now's the time to flip the switch on it.
I wouldn't hate us running Wildcat with Monty not at the goal line and doing an end around pitch to JMO as well. Or something Khalif, like that. Yeah. There's a lot that you can do that we've kind of been setting up. I mean, there's obviously they've been trying to do something with Skipper on the outside, which hasn't worked as yet, but there's still something there. Having Skipper in the game and Sewell in the game, there's obviously Sewell you can get involved in the pass game, but having Skipper at right tackle and flexing Penne out, there's some trickeration to be had. But if we lose, it's not a disaster, but it does make things pretty dire for us. So just in terms of the games that we have left this season.
It's Pittsburgh next week, at Minnesota on Christmas Day, and then God help us, and then at Bears to end the season. Yeah,
so 3 away games in 4, 2 away games in a row in division to finish. The eliminated Vikings and then potentially a winner-take-all game at the Bears. But you've got to get past the Aaron Rodgers Steelers. And I mean, if the Steelers lose and go back to 500, by Ant's metric, that's the game the Steelers will win. Because they will have to go above 500 again. Now, it's a stupid thing to say, but...
But, I mean, speaking of Steelers and going 500, obviously one of their edge rushers has now gone 500 on the amount of lungs he's got.
Yeah, true. Right, we have talked about this game long enough. Let's just briefly touch on the rest of the week's games coming up. Thursday Night Football has obviously happened. The Falcons beating the Buccaneers after being back by 14 points in the fourth quarter. Win 29-28. What a shock. And Panthers are leading the South.
Yep, they are. Who would have thought it? It's taken Carl Pitts till now to remember how to be a good tight end again. And it was fucking Kirko changed it and locked him. I just don't know what's going on with the Bucs. Like, as much as I respect the hell out of Todd Bowles as a play caller and a head coach, his time in Tampa Bay might be coming to an end. And poor Baker Mayfield will have to go into another season as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer with a different OC than the season he had before, because they're going to clean house. Fair play to the Falcons for doing what they've always done. I think they've won every game against the Bucs so far over the past season and a half. So fair play to them for getting their sort of last rally win now, but they're probably going to win out for the rest of the season. I'm just sad for the Bucs, man, because I really like them, but at the same time, go Panthers. Can they do it? Can they make Ant the happiest boy ever by finally winning the South?
Right. Games on the 6 o'clock slate on Sunday. Browns at Bears. Browns 3-10 against the 9-4 Chicago Bears. This is one that the Lions would love to have the Bears drop. But, given everything, Judkins is Judkins and Garrett is Garrett. He might get the single season record for sacks. But for me, it's hard to see anything other than a Bears win here.
Oh, I've got the Browns winning. Bears' job's got a lot harder. They've just put Kyler Gordon on injury reserve over the past couple of hours. So that's their starting nickel down again. They're doing pretty damn good. It's just one of them where I can see Garrett taking over the game, and then Shador having one of those games he just connects well with Fannin. Please connect well with Fannin. I need the fancy points. And Judy. And it just be one of them where the Bears just kind of overlook it. Like, they're riding high in their lows. So obviously they lost to the Packers pretty close last week, but that they'll just overlook the Browns. And then, Garrett will just take over the game. And then on the other side, Mason Graham remembers that he exists and actually coming back. He's kind of dropped off a bit. But yeah, to see that defensive line against what has been a good Bears resurgent offensive line, finally teaching them, no, you're not a good offensive line. Get back in your place.
All right, next one is the Ravens at the Bengals. 6-7 Ravens against the 4-9 Bengals. And this is such a compelling game for such a weird variety of reasons. Lamar Jackson looks pretty shoddy right now still. And the Bengals have got their quarterback back. And if the Bengals win this and the Steelers drop a game, suddenly everything is back on in this division where the winner might only need 500 to get it, but all three of those teams could be the one.
I want the well, no one predicted the Bengals win. Number two, I want them to win because I've seen there is a situation where, depending on how some games go, when it comes to the first week of the playoffs, the 8 and 9 Bengals will host I think it's 14 and 3 Patriots for a wild card game. There's that permutation, and I'm here for it. I'm here for that just sicko shit. But at the same time, the Ravens are just, I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's happened to them at all. And it's weird. It's weird. Lamar's just not there. Henry, if he's not busting out a big run, it's getting 1 yard. And for some reason, Zay Flowers is just not getting the ball anymore, which annoys me.
Next up is the Chargers at the Chiefs. 9-4 Chargers, 6-7 Chiefs. A loss for the Chiefs should eliminate them. However, even though the Chargers are 9-4, considering how beat up the Chargers are, even though the Chiefs are also beaten up, it weirdly feels like a game that the Chiefs should win, and I don't really know why. Like, this is just a game that they've kind of pulled out in the past in division against a team that they've kind of owned over the time. I can definitely see a Chargers win, but there's just something about this that says to me that the Chiefs are going to keep their hopes alive, at least for now.
I have the opposite. I'm not even trying to be a contrarian. The Chiefs, I know they've got that mistake, as you very much said, but it's just not been there this season. I do listen to the Kelsey Burris podcast, and I can tell that I think even Travis has given up on the season, to be honest. He's getting ready to have his post-playing days being Taylor's sidekick as she tours around the world again. And the thing that really pushed it over the edge for me is that the Charge got a Marion Hampton back. So this, honestly, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, obviously put ours and maybe the Falcons running back duos aside, the Chargers have weirdly got one of the best 1-2 punches at running back with Marion Hampton and Kamadi Vidal. And that's how I see them winning this game. Just running the damn ball on the Chiefs. Because, they've got Chris Jones, it's all well and good. Don't think the Chiefs have been that great against the run this season, especially in the games where they're just not feeling themselves. And with the weather looking it's going to be, so according to ESPN, it's going to be -8 in that game. And with Herbert's throwing hand issue, I just see the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh going back to his old Michigan days and just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. It's how they beat Ohio State a couple of years ago with Blake Coleman and Donovan Edwards. Do it all over again on these scary, scary Chiefs.
Next up is the 9-4 Buffalo Bills at the 11-2 New England Patriots. Buffalo favoured by, I think, 3 points in this game. What a fascinating matchup. New England set up for a sweep to go 12 wins and clinch the division in the AFC East. The Bills, as I say, are favoured. Their defense is shoddy, but their offense still fires. What a fascinating game. I got the Pats.
Me too. I'm here, as we all know, I'm the biggest Drake Mace fan, and I can see it happening. It'd be such a weird, it's like sort of thing, wouldn't it? It's almost like gone back 10 years ago to where the Broncos and the Pats were and the Colts were the big bads in the AFC. I'm here for it. Especially since, Josh Allen might now be putting some of his talent aside to breed the next QB that the Bears will ruin in 25 years' time when they draft their son that him and Haley Steinfeld are having. The Bears have already got their 2040 first round pick sorted out, I think.
All right. Next up, the 3-10 Washington Commanders against the 2-11 New York Giants. This is one of those games which is really just for draft position, but it's also for bragging rights and division. I got the Giants just because I think that Jackson Dart has no quit.
Same, completely the same, and their defense is just better. Especially since I think Commanders just lost Lawrence Armstrong, haven't they? So they have no edge rushers now, other than Von Miller, who's playing like 20% of snaps. Yeah, Giants are going to win just by that defense alone.
Next up is the 2-11 Las Vegas Raiders against the 8-5 Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are on a horrific slide. They do not look anywhere near the team that was playing last season. After starting 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-2, they've lost their last 3 against the Cowboys, Bears, and Chargers. It feels very, very much like the season 2 years ago where they started 11-1 and then lost out to get dumped out of the playoffs. This would be truly rock bottom if they did lose to the Raiders, though, who have shown fight sometimes, but oh my god. And then the Raiders are starting former Eagles quarterback,
Kenny
Pickett. So if they do lose this, holy shit. I got the Eagles, because what else can you do?
Gianti. Feed Gianti. I can just see it. He's had such a shit season. The Raiders, despite spending their first round pick on perhaps one of the best running backs that's been in college football over the past 10 years or so, that I've kind of been keeping an eye on things. They've had really bad rushing efficiency just because that offensive line's bad. For some reason, I can just see Pete Carroll just pulling one out of his bum, and that offensive line still remember how to play, and Gianti just being fed because, as you say, they're playing Kenny Pickett now. Just hand the ball off to Gianti on every bloody play, and whatever happens. And for some reason, I can see Gianti just carrying that team to a win. It'll be a damn close win. It might just be like a field goal win or something, but I can see the Gianti just carrying this Raiders team on his literal back, like Greg Jennings 10, 15 years ago, and beating this Eagles team.
All right, next one up is the Jets at the Jags. 3-10 Jets at the 9-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. What a weird ass game. Jags are favoured by 14 points. That is the highest spread since at least 2007 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the New York Jets are starting Brady Cook.
Yes.
I believe. So you know what? Even if the Jags are not quite as good as they were last week, I'm taking the Jags. And you know what? I'm really tempted to take the points as well, because this is a big mismatch to me. The only thing that's in the back of my head is that when the Jags are favoured by this much, they do have a tendency to shit the bed sometimes.
What's also in the back of my head is when the Jets are starting these random ass QBs just out of nowhere, they somehow pull a godly performance out of their ass. Who remembers Mike White a couple of years ago, folks? Imagine if Brady comes out and just does that, has that one inspired week of QB play, and somehow wins the Jets another game. I can see it, but at the same time, yeah, I'm picking the Jags. Probably not taking the points, but yeah, the Jags. Trevor Lawrence is looking back to Clemson. Trevor Lawrence, which is scary, because again, sort of looking against the future. What is this Jags offense going to look like next year if T-Law continues like this? They've got Brian Thomas back on form. Parker Washington's broke out, and then they get Travis Hunter in this offense. Jesus Christ.
Next up, still on the 1 o'clock slate, Cardinals at Texans. The Texans are favoured by 10.5 points at home, an 8-win Texan team against a 3-win Arizona Cardinals team. The Texans needing to basically run the table from the horrific position they found themselves in, which I think was 3-4 start. They have won 5 straight, including Jags, Bills, Colts, and Chiefs in that run. So the Texans have really made up some wins against some teams that, have been or are good at some point this season. Also, before that was a narrow loss to the Broncos before beating the 49ers. So, it's a funky Houston Texans team against a Cardinals team that I think deserves a little bit better than having a 10.5 point spread. Because you know what? Loki Jacoby Brissett has been keeping this team in games. Now, we said they got blown away against the Rams. That's a completely different kettle of fish. To me, I'm picking the Texans, but I'm taking the points on the side of the Cardinals here. I don't think it's going to be a 10.5 point game.
I do, and it's not because I'm contrarian. Paris Johnson Jr. has just got an injury and he's down. He's not going to be playing this week. And we saw what the Rams defense did to the Cardinals last week. The Texans defense is even better. Like Jacoby Brissett's had this nice run. I think ever since he's been the start of the Cards, he's been at least QB 12 or better in fantasy every week. That's ending this week. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter are going to fold him like a deck chair on Western Supermare.
Elite local Somerset reference. Love it. Right, next matchup is the Green Bay Packers at the Denver Broncos. Same time as our game, 4:25 Eastern kickoff. 9-3-1 Packers, 11-2 Broncos. The Packers are favoured by 1.5 points away against the AFC leaders. I ain't going to say my pick yet. Ash, who have you got?
Broncos. I've tried to pick my head with most of these. I'm picking my heart this one. Broncos. Do it, please. Nick Benito, make a fool of that offensive line. Please. Pretty please.
I've got the Broncos, and a lot of it comes down to I think this Broncos defense is going to wreck the Packers offense. I keep hearing from national media talking about how the Packers have suddenly got this figured out on offense with Jordan Love playing like a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And you know what? It's just not what I see.
Same.
I do see him having played better. There's no doubt that he has picked it up in the last month and a half or so. But to say that he is playing at some sort of top 5 quarterback level, I think is more about what were the top 5 quarterbacks not playing well, rather than him playing well. Like, he had a fairly good day against Chicago. 17-25, 234, 3 touchdowns. But the one pick he threw right at the start of the game was atrociously bad. Yeah. And you know what? The Bears don't come after you like the Denver Broncos do. The other thing, I know that the Broncos played the Raiders last week, but they suddenly figured out that they're not actually that good at some of the technical stuff. So they just schemed up a lot of bullshit for Bo Nix. And it worked. And I know that the Raiders aren't an amazing team. But you know what? Bo Nix with his rushing ability and scrambling ability, the bullshit kind of works for them with this defense.
And to look at the Packers, the Packers' point of view, Josh Jacobs is questionable. So they're down to Manuel Wilson, who actually, they're not down to Manuel Wilson. I think he's out, so that's called up their practice squad running back. That's what's been really helping Jordan Love, is just that they've had a consistent running game between Jacobs and Wilson. So he doesn't have that, and he has to sort of go to his receivers again. Yeah, Christian Watson has looked okay recently. Dobbs has kind of fallen off a bit over the past couple of weeks. And and Matthew Golden's disappeared. Where's he gone to? Where's their first round pick? It's the first time we drafted the first receiving the first round for ages. I'm fucking seeing him in a couple of weeks. He's going to have to come out and play against these. And Riley Moss is not looking good statistically, but you're in their own thing. And yet they'll scheme up the pass rush against this weakened Packers interior. But remember, they've lost Elson Jenkins. They start scheming up sort of bullshit, the stunts where you have Singleton and Benito doing their stunts with each other, which they've been doing the past couple of weeks. It's going to confuse the hell out of that interior, and Benito's going to get through and he's going to sack Jordan Love. Then it's me, my heart saying it because I really want the Packers to lose because I just want us to have a chance to overtake them again. But Broncos are going to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm hopeful. At the same time as that and the Lions game is the Panthers at the Saints. 7-6 Panthers against the 3-10 Saints. Panthers favoured by 3 on the road against the Saints team that has been very competitive since Tyler Shook took over. I have been totally wrong. about that quarterback change. I have been very impressed by Tyler Shook. 24-20 win last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which has put the Panthers in this position. Can they hold on to the South lead?
Yes, they can off the back of Ted McMillan, though I'm happy you've come around to the Tyler Shook train. And honestly, with how he's performed the past couple of weeks, dare I say they might actually not look at QB in this upcoming draft and they'll give him another year because, yeah, I know he's an older QB. His starting tight end, John Johnson, played receiver with him in his last year at Oregon, which was his rookie year. But he's looked functional. He's never going to be, top 10, but where they are right now, it's a kind of perfect QB. You play him on his rookie contract, you get pieces around him, and then when your team's ready, you put in the rookie QB and suddenly away you go. So keep pounding Panthers. I want you to win the South. I want Ted McMillan to absolutely go off. But I can see the Saints keeping it competitive.
All right. Same window, 4:25 kick is the Tennessee Titans at the San Francisco 49ers. 2-win Titans against the 9-4 San Francisco 49ers. This is another big spread. 12.5 points on this one. Who you got?
As much as I hate it, because I want the 49ers to lose for obvious reasons, they're going to win against the Titans. Like, Cam Ward is trying his best, but there's not a lot he can do, especially since the chemistry between him and DK has just not been there the past couple of weeks, as far as I can remember from the tiny bits I've seen in Titans games. Because, hell, I know I'm a sadist, but I'm not that much of a sadist. I've had to put Florida State football this year. I don't need to continue on with the Titans. But yeah, I can see the 49ers just gritting it out. They've kind of become the antithesis of what we thought they were last year. We're like, oh yeah, they're all these stars, and as soon as they go, they're not going to win. They've worked out how to win despite their stars. Like Mac Jones came in and led this team to a couple of wins. And I know McCaffrey's now been put questionable on an injury report thing. He's supposed to still going to play. Even if, again, what I said earlier with the Raiders game plan, just feed Dejounte, even if every single play goes to Christian McCaffrey, and obviously I know they've also chose to not resuscitate Brandon Ayuk can put him on the did not report left team designation. Just feed McCaffrey, and they should be able to win because as much like this Titans defense, they don't have the horses right now, and Cam Ward can only do so much. And even with a really, really bad 49ers pass rush, that secondary is still good enough just to keep his receivers in check and force him into coverage sacks.
I have the 49ers, but I have the Titans covering 12.5. It feels big when the Titans have been competitive and Cam Ward has continued to look better and better. Low-key, Cam's had a really good season. Given everything, given the circumstances, he's shown flashes of being the guy they need. So I'm hopeful that this is a respectable game. Next up is the Sunday Night Football, which is the
no. You forgot the return. You forgot the return.
Oh, the
Colts at Seahawks.
Where did I have that? Oh yeah,
It's also a 9:25 kickoff.
Sorry, my mistake. How'd I miss that? Colts at Seahawks. Sorry. 8-5 Colts, 10-3 Seahawks. This is a 13.5 point spread in favour of the at-home Seattle Seahawks. As you said, the return of 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who has not played since 2020 for the Indianapolis Colts. Seattle may be best defense in the NFL. Darnold's not been himself recently, though, and the Colts are strong on defense, generally speaking. They've also got Jonathan Taylor, who's obviously had a fantastic season. I do think this will be closer than the spread, but I do have the Seahawks to get a win here, just because how can you bet on a Rivers who hasn't played in 5 years? If he does pull out a victory here, it's going to be talked about for decades. Like, this will be a game that people make an NFL film about. But I just don't see it.
Nor do I. Like, not only because, the Colts, ever since they made the Sauce Gardner trade, have just gone downhill.
I did say that was a terrible trade at the time because I didn't believe in Jones. And I know that Jones couldn't keep up the pace he was on. But I don't think anyone saw... I mean, I'll talk about the Colts in a minute with the position they've got themselves in, but they are in hell. The Colts right now.
Exactly. Not only that, but who would have thought it? Philip Rivers would see Stafford about to pass his past yard record and be like, "Nope, can't allow this. I'm getting too bored trying to feed my 24 grandkids, so I'm going to come out of retirement." And instantly, he's going to do his best Bonnie Blue impression behind this Seahawks defense because they are gonna get to him. Like as you say, we've already discussed the Rams defense is definitely top three this season. Texans is up there. Yeah, this Seahawks defense, it's damn good. It's damn good. And I know this Colts offensive line has been pretty damn good this season. They're not going to keep up with this, especially with an immobile Philip Rivers. Like, I've probably got more mobility than him right now, and I'm absolutely exhausted from doing 25,000 steps around New Station today. It's not going to be fun. The only hope they've got is they do some weird ass shit where, like, every single play is just a slip screen to Taylor. They invite the blitz and then just try and do it that way because GSN's going to tear Sauce Gardner a new one, and yeah, that Colts offense line is not going to hold up against the Seahawks pass rush.
Now we're on to Sunday Night Football. The 5-8 Vikings against the 6-1 Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys favoured by 5.5 points on the spread. It's going to be interesting because the Vikings are going to light it up on defense as they always do. But they're coming up against a Cowboys team who still, I believe, are on a heater right now, even though we beat them. I got Cowboys, and I don't think 5.5 is going to be enough for the Vikings. I got them winning by a score.
Yeah, same. It just depends if George Pickens decides to actually run routes this week because, Sherman's definitely lit a fire under his arse to see if he actually steps up. But yeah, even if it isn't that, we saw what that Cowboys defense was like last week when we played them. They can still get to the QB. They can still do stuff. And JJ McCarthy's no Jared Goff in both the best and worst ways. He's a bit more mobile, but he'll make dumbass decisions. And I think some of his receivers quit on him. Like Hawkinson had a resurgent game last week, from what I remember. But yeah, Cowboys, James Houston, 2.5 sacks at least.
And then Monday Night Football is the Dolphins at the Steelers. Dolphins 6-7, Pittsburgh 7-6. The Pittsburgh Steelers are favoured by 3.5 points at home. I have a very strong take on this, but I'm going to let you take it first.
Part of me wants to feed into the meme that Ant started, where let's look at their record. They're 7-6. To get to 500, they need to lose, so they're going to lose this game. But at the same time, I want them to win, so then they can lose next week, and we can get that easy dub. And I don't know, like the Dolphins are a weird one. They're getting better offensively. Like Achan's definitely breaking out. He's not in the Gibbs stratosphere yet of that top tier, but it's definitely that second tier running backs where he's going to get a payday soon, and it's going to be completely justified. It honestly can be. Can Alex Highsmith and Nate Herbig get some pass rush and get to Tua? Because if they don't, the Dolphins have got the horses to beat up on the Steelers defense, and AA Rod has just enough to keep going, and Jalen Warren's good enough to do some stuff. It honestly comes down to, can this Dolphins pass rush get to A-Rod, and then vice versa, can the Steelers get to Tua?
I have a Dolphins victory. They have won 4 straight. They've won 5 of the last 6. And the Dolphins are not dead yet. I had the Dolphins overhauling the Bills for second in division. With a Patriots win and a Dolphins win this week, I get one step closer to that. I'm not just voting that way, though, because I want it for my take to be true. The Dolphins are playing legitimately excellent football right now in a limited way. It's not a good team, but the way Achan is playing right now, and the way the Steelers' defense is playing, which is blowing hot and cold. They were terrible, then they were awesome. Now TJ Watt's gone down, probably not going to play. You never know with a Watt, but, And offensively, Rodgers is hot and cold, but the Dolphins' defense has kind of found a little bit of life. They have conceded in the last 4 games in their victories, 13, 13, 17, and 10. It's good. Even if you're playing the Bills, Commanders, Saints, and Jets, it's still good. Like, it's so much better than what we were talking about, and while I think Tua needs replacing, he's still putting the ball in positions where you need to win. I just don't believe in him as a leader anymore. I don't think people are going to rally behind that or want to play with him past next season. But for right now, I think they can stay alive. I mean, I think they have to run the table to have a shot, but why not let this remarkable run continue? They've been low key quite impressive.
Look at where the game's being played, though.
Yeah, all 4 at home. No, sorry, 3 at home, and then the Jets game away.
Where's this game being played?
In Pittsburgh.
This particular. Dolphins can't play in the cold. That's the thing. Heinz Field, because I'm never calling it Acrisure. Heinz Field, the home field advantage to come into play here. We've all seen it time and time again. Look at last year, wasn't it, where I predicted the Dolphins to beat the Packers, forgetting that it's been played in Green Bay at this time of year. And for some reason, when it comes to December, if the Dolphins are playing away, they just can't handle the cold. They just can't.
Fair. All right. Anything else you want to say about this weekend's football before we sign off?
I don't know. Just hopefully some results actually go away for once. And, this reffing crew, because I know we didn't discuss it briefly, but I know this reffing crew is pretty infamous for giving the home team a lot more advantages with their calls. So let's hope that doesn't happen this week.
All right. College Football Podcast back next Wednesday, looking back at the bowl games and looking ahead to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And potentially some more head coaching stuff.
And a lot of head coaching stuff. There will be no live play-by-play on Sunday because we will be in London if you are in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, or anywhere nearby, or you're visiting, or whatever it happens to be. If you want to come and say hi, we'll be at the Hippodrome probably from 6 p.m. local time. So do come and say hi or hit us up on socials just to find out what the plan is. We will be doing a recap as normal, probably on Monday. Win or lose, fingers crossed for that. You can find us on our socials on Roar of the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for worldwide fans on Facebook is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. The website, rotluk.com. Please don't forget to rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider and like and sub and all that good stuff. Thank you to everyone for listening. For Ash for doing this for me. We'll see you for the recap show on Monday. Until now, Godspeed all. We could do with this one. Let's go Lions, One Pride.
One Pride and fuck Kelly Stafford.
Recording stopped.